The piano keys went silent as Whitney Houston walked toward the church doors for the last time. Behind her, 25-year-old Marcus Williams sat frozen, tears streaming from words that would haunt him forever. "I'm going pop, Marcus. You stay in gospel." What happened next would transform one man's heartbreak into hope for 60,000 children worldwide. If you enjoy stories about turning rejection into purpose, hit that subscribe button and leave a comment about a time harsh words became your motivation. It was March 15th, 1983, at New Hope Baptist Church in Newark, New Jersey. Whitney Houston and Marcus Williams remained behind after choir practice. For 3 years, they'd been the church's unstoppable musical duo, creating magic that made grown men weep. Marcus had been Whitney's accompanist since she was 19, watching her transform from Sissy Houston's shy daughter to the confident young woman who could command hundreds with a single note. "Marcus," Whitney said, gathering sheet music, "I need to tell you something." Marcus continued playing softly. "What's on your mind, Whitney?" Whitney sat on the front pew. The sanctuary was dimly lit, with only the piano light illuminating the space. "Clive Davis wants to sign me," Whitney said quietly. Marcus's fingers stopped mid-chord. He'd heard rumors about record executives coming to Sunday services, about Whitney meeting with music industry people. But hearing it confirmed felt like a punch to the stomach. "That's incredible, Whitney," Marcus managed to say, forcing a smile. "You've been praying for this opportunity." But Whitney's expression wasn't joyful. It was conflicted, almost apologetic. "If I sign with Arista, everything changes," she continued. "Clive wants to take me in a completely different direction." "Different how?" "Pop music, Marcus. Not gospel, pop." The word hung in the air like a confession. In their world, pop music was often seen as abandoning your calling. "But you can do both," Marcus said quickly. "Plenty of artists sing pop and still maintain their gospel roots." "No," Whitney interrupted, her voice firm. "Clive was very clear. If I'm going to make it in the mainstream market, I can't be seen as a gospel singer who dabbles in pop. I have to be a pop star, period." Marcus felt his world shifting. For 3 years, his identity had been built around their partnership. "So what does that mean for us?" Marcus asked, fearing the answer. Whitney walked to the piano, running her fingers along the keys. "It means this is goodbye, Marcus." "I can't take you with me," Whitney said. "Clive wants me working with different musicians, people who understand the pop world." Marcus stood up, legs unsteady. "Whitney, we're a team. We've been working together for 3 years. I know your voice better than anyone." "But Marcus, where I'm going, you can't follow." Then Whitney said the words that would echo in Marcus Williams' mind for 40 years, words spoken with a finality that felt like a door slamming shut on their shared dreams. "I'm going pop, Marcus. You stay in gospel." The dismissal was casual, almost cruel, as if his dreams meant nothing. Marcus felt his heart breaking. "Whitney, gospel was always supposed to be our foundation, not my limitation." Whitney's expression hardened. "This is the real world, Marcus. I've got a chance to reach millions instead of hundreds." "We had a plan," Marcus said. "We talked about taking gospel mainstream together." "That was a dream," Whitney said coldly. "This is an opportunity." Whitney gathered her things and headed toward the door. "You're talented, Marcus, but you belong here, in the church." The door closed behind her with a soft click that echoed through the empty sanctuary like a gunshot. But wait, you haven't heard the most incredible part yet. Marcus Williams sat alone at the piano bench in the dim church sanctuary, staring at the keys that suddenly seemed foreign to him. 3 years of dreams shattered in 10 minutes. 3 years of believing he was part of something bigger, only to be told he was too small for Whitney's new world. That night, Marcus didn't go home. He stayed in the church until dawn, playing every song he and Whitney had ever arranged together, letting his tears fall onto the keys as he said goodbye to the future he thought they were building together. Each note felt like a prayer, each chord progression a memory of what they'd lost. But in his devastation, something else was taking root. Something that would eventually bloom into hope for children around the world who needed to hear that they were good enough, talented enough, worthy enough, just as they were. The morning after Whitney's departure, Marcus sat in Pastor Williams' office, feeling like his identity had been erased. I heard about Whitney, Pastor Williams said gently. Marcus stared at his hands. My whole musical life was built around our partnership. Now what am I? Just the church piano player who wasn't good enough? Marcus, Whitney's going to be famous, but fame isn't the only way to serve God with your music. But I had dreams too, Marcus said. I wanted to show people gospel music could be sophisticated. Now I feel stuck here, playing for the same 100 people, while Whitney sings for millions. Pastor Williams was quiet. Then he said something that would change Marcus's perspective. What if there were children in this community who would never discover their musical gifts because they can't afford lessons? Maybe God didn't call you to be famous, Marcus. Maybe he called you to be foundational. That afternoon, Marcus walked through the neighborhoods with new eyes, seeing kids with nothing to do, families struggling. For the first time since Whitney's rejection, he felt purpose stirring. That evening, Marcus called an emergency meeting with the youth pastor and parents. I want to start a program, Marcus announced. Free music lessons for any child in the community. We don't have the budget, said Mrs. Henderson. Then we'll find a way, Marcus said with determination, because every child deserves to discover their musical gifts. 6 months later, the Hope Through Harmony program held its first classes in the church basement with 12 children, 3 donated keyboards, and 1 guitar that was missing 2 strings. Marcus taught piano and basic music theory. A volunteer from the congregation taught guitar. Whitney's mother, Whitney Houston, who had heard about the program through the church network and understood what her daughter's departure had cost Marcus, donated her time one Saturday a month to teach voice. But Marcus knew he was onto something bigger when he saw the transformation in the children. It wasn't just about learning scales or chord progressions. It was about watching young souls discover they had something valuable to offer the world. 8-year-old Keisha, who had been struggling in school and acting out at home, found her voice through singing and became one of the most confident children in her class. 12-year-old David, whose father had abandoned the family, found stability and mentorship through learning piano, eventually becoming Marcus's assistant teacher. 10-year-old Maria, who spoke limited English, discovered that music was a universal language that helped her connect with her classmates. These weren't just music lessons. They were life lessons. And Marcus realized that what Whitney had meant as a limitation, you stay in gospel, was actually his liberation. By 1985, Hope Through Harmony had grown to serve 60 children. By 1987, they had partnered with 3 other churches and were serving 200 kids. By 1990, they had their own building, 8 full-time instructors, and were serving 400 children across Newark. But here's where the story gets absolutely incredible. The program's real breakthrough came in 1991 when Marcus received a phone call that would change everything. Is this Marcus Williams from Hope Through Harmony? The voice on the phone asked. Yes, this is Marcus. My name is Dr. Patricia Chen from the Carnegie Foundation. We've been hearing incredible things about your program. We'd like to discuss funding to help you expand nationally. Marcus almost dropped the phone. The Carnegie Foundation wanted to fund his little church program? How did you hear about us? Marcus asked, still in disbelief. One of your success stories, Dr. Chen replied. David Martinez? He's now a senior at Juilliard on a full scholarship. When we asked him how a kid from Newark ended up at one of the world's most prestigious music schools, he told us about a piano teacher who believed in him when no one else did. David Martinez, the 12-year-old whose father had left, who Marcus had taught piano in the church basement. He was at Juilliard? Mr. Williams, Dr. Chen continued, we believe Hope Through Harmony represents something revolutionary. You've proven that musical education can transform entire communities, not just individual students. We'd like to help you scale this nationwide. By 1995, Hope Through Harmony had programs in 12 cities across the United States. By 2000, they had expanded internationally, with programs in Canada, the United Kingdom, and Jamaica. By 2005, they were operating in 20 countries, serving over 30,000 children annually. But you won't believe what happened next. The program's most meaningful expansion came in 2007, when Marcus received a letter that brought him to tears. Dear Mr. Williams, the letter began, my name is Lisa Johnson, and I'm a music therapist working with children who have experienced trauma. I was trained at your program in Newark when I was 15 years old. You probably don't remember me, but you changed my life. Marcus did remember Lisa. She'd been one of the quieter students, a girl who lost her mother in a car accident and had stopped speaking for months. Music had been her way back to the world. The letter continued. I've spent the last 10 years working with children who have experienced abuse, neglect, and trauma. I use the same techniques you taught me. Music as a bridge to healing, music as a language when words fail. I wanted you to know that because of what you taught me, I've been able to help over 500 children find their voices again. Marcus realized that the ripple effects of hope through harmony were multiplying exponentially. It wasn't just about the children they directly served. It was about those children growing up to serve others, creating an endless cycle of healing through music. By 2010, Hope Through Harmony had served over 50,000 children directly. But when they calculated the secondary impact, the children taught by their alumni, the communities transformed by their graduates, the families healed through music, the number exceeded 200,000 lives touched. In 2012, Marcus received a call that would bring his journey full circle. Marcus, this is Whitney. He hadn't heard her voice in nearly 30 years, but he recognized it immediately. Whitney Houston, he said, settling back in his office chair. How are you? I've been better, Whitney said quietly. It was 2012, and though Marcus didn't know it at the time, Whitney had only weeks left to live. Her voice sounded tired, weathered by years of struggles that had been played out in the public eye. I heard about your program, Whitney continued. Hope Through Harmony. It's incredible, Marcus. You've helped so many children. Marcus felt a complex mix of emotions, pride in what he'd built, but also sadness for what they'd lost. Thank you, he said simply. Marcus, I need to tell you something, Whitney said, her voice breaking slightly with the weight of years of regret. I was wrong. That night in the church when I told you to stay in gospel, I thought I was freeing you to find your own path. But really, I was freeing myself to forget where I came from. Marcus felt tears starting to form in his eyes as he heard the pain in her voice. Whitney. No, let me finish, she interrupted, her words rushing out as if she'd been holding them back for decades. I became everything I thought I wanted to be. I sold millions of records, won Grammy Awards, became famous around the world. But I lost something along the way. I lost the foundation that made my music meaningful. I lost the connection to the community that raised me. She paused, gathering herself. You kept the foundation, Marcus. You built something that matters more than fame, more than money, more than any of the things I thought were so important. You stayed true to what we both knew in that church, that music is about healing, about bringing people together, about giving hope. Marcus wiped his eyes. Whitney, you've given hope to millions of people with your voice, but you've given hope and opportunity to children who might never have found their voices without you. That's bigger than anything I ever did. They talked for over an hour that day. Whitney shared her regrets about how fame had isolated her from her community and her faith. Marcus shared how her rejection had initially devastated him, but ultimately led him to his true calling. I wish things could have been different, Whitney said as their conversation wound down. I don't, Marcus replied, surprising himself with his honesty. If you hadn't left me behind, I never would have found my real purpose. 3 weeks later, Whitney Houston died in a Beverly Hills hotel room. Marcus attended her funeral at New Hope Baptist Church, the same church where their partnership had ended and his mission had begun. Today, at 75 years old, Marcus Williams still runs Hope Through Harmony from his office in Newark. The program now operates in 30 countries and has served over 60,000 children directly. Their alumni have gone on to become professional musicians, music teachers, music therapists, and simply people who understand the power of music to heal and unite. But Marcus's proudest achievement isn't the famous graduates or the international recognition. It's the thousands of children who simply learned that they had value, that their voices mattered, that they belonged in the world of music regardless of their background or circumstances. In 2018, Marcus received the Presidential Medal of Freedom for his work in music education and community development. As he stood in the White House, he thought about that night in 1983 when Whitney Houston walked out of New Hope Baptist Church and told him to stay in gospel. At the time, those words had felt like a prison sentence. Now he understood they had been a prophecy. During his acceptance speech, Marcus said, 35 years ago, someone told me I wasn't good enough to follow my dreams. Today, I want to thank that person because their rejection led me to something more meaningful than my dreams ever could have been. After the ceremony, a young reporter asked Marcus if he ever wondered what his life would have been like if Whitney had taken him with her into the pop music world. Marcus smiled and looked at a photo on his phone. His latest group of Hope Through Harmony graduates, 60 children from inner-city Detroit who had just completed their first year of music education. I know exactly what my life would have been like, he said. I would have been a backup musician in someone else's story. Instead, I got to be the main character in 60,000 children's stories. Marcus still plays piano at New Hope Baptist Church every Sunday. The same piano where Whitney told him he wasn't good enough for her new world, where he discovered his calling was never about being good enough for someone else's dreams. Whitney Houston told Marcus Williams to stay in gospel. He did, and in staying, he created a legacy that reaches further than any pop song, touches more lives than any concert, and offers something more lasting than fame: hope. The piano keys that went silent when Whitney walked away in 1983 have been playing continuously for 40 years, teaching children that being left behind by one person's dream can be the beginning of your own purpose. Marcus Williams was left behind by Whitney Houston. Today, he's the reason 60,000 children were never left behind by their dreams.